AITA for exposing my pregnant wife after she tried to make me raise another man's baby? I'm Austin, 36, and for most of my marriage, I thought being a good husband meant staying calm when things got messy. I was the guy who kept receipts in a kitchen drawer, filled the gas tank before long drives, and apologized first just to keep the peace. I live a pretty ordinary life, work steady hours, pay bills on time, and try not to turn every argument into a war. So when my wife, Megan, started pulling away and telling me I needed to step up, I assumed we were just going through one of those ugly seasons married people are supposed to survive. Megan is 34. We had been married long enough that our routines felt more like muscle memory than romance. She knew how I took my coffee. I knew which side of the couch she liked. We had the same shared tablet in the kitchen for recipes, streaming shows, and keeping track of family events. We had a junk drawer full of batteries, receipts, tape, expired coupons, and a tape measure that somehow disappeared every time we needed it. It was not a perfect marriage, but I thought it was still ours. The first signs were small enough that I talked myself out of noticing them. Megan started putting her phone face down, even when it was just the two of us eating dinner. She changed her passcode and said it was because everyone should update security sometimes. She began staying late for team dinners and vendor calls, then came home smelling like hotel soap and peppermint gum. When I asked how her day went, she sighed like I had asked her to defend herself in court. "You always want proof that I'm struggling before you care," she said one night, standing at the sink with a plate in her hand. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in my jacket, with 2 takeout containers between us because she had texted that she was too exhausted to cook. "I'm not asking for proof," I said. "I'm asking what happened. You wouldn't understand." That became her favorite sentence. I would try to plan dinner, and she would say I was making her feel crowded. I would give her space, and she would say I was emotionally absent. I would ask if we needed counseling, and she would tell me she was tired of being treated like a project. For months, I lived inside a maze where every exit somehow made me the bad guy. My dad, Ray, noticed before I admitted it to myself. He is not dramatic. He does not give big speeches. One Saturday, while helping me fix a loose shelf in the garage, he said, "You seem like you're walking on eggshells in your own house." I laughed it off. "Megan's just stressed." He tightened a screw and looked at me over the frame of his glasses. "Maybe. Just don't confuse patience with permission." I remember being annoyed at him for saying that. Not because it was cruel, because it landed too close. Then Megan told me she was pregnant. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I had stopped by the grocery store and bought the wrong kind of yogurt, and she had snapped at me in the kitchen before suddenly going quiet. She reached into her purse and placed an ultrasound photo on the counter. I stared at it for a second before my brain caught up. "What is this?" She crossed her arms over her stomach. "I'm pregnant." The world should have opened up in that moment. I should have felt joy, fear, excitement, something pure. Instead, the first thing I felt was confusion. Not because I did not want to be a father, because the dates in my head did not line up. Megan and I had barely been close for months. The few times we had tried, it felt tense and distant, like 2 people acting out an old version of themselves. I did not want my first response to my wife's pregnancy to be suspicion, so I swallowed the question at first. "How far along?" Her face tightened. "Austin." "What?" "Can we please not turn the happiest news of our lives into an interrogation?" "I'm asking how far along you are." She looked away. "Around 10 weeks. Maybe a little more. They're still figuring it out." "They?" "My doctor." "When was the appointment?" She picked up the ultrasound and slid it back toward her purse. "I was scared to tell you." That should have made me soften. It almost did. I stood there with a bag of groceries still on the counter, frozen peas sweating through the plastic, while she waited for me to become the version of Austin she needed. So I tried. I bought prenatal vitamins the next morning. I downloaded a pregnancy app. I made chicken soup because she said the smell of red meat made her sick. I cleaned out the cabinet under the bathroom sink to make space for whatever pregnancy stuff she wanted. I even saved the grocery receipt in the kitchen drawer like I always did, because I had this ridiculous thought that one day maybe we would look back and laugh at how awkwardly it started. But the uneasy feeling in my chest did not go away. It got sharper. The shared tablet was the first crack. One night, I was looking for a saved recipe Megan liked, a lemon pasta thing she always asked for when she felt sick. The tablet lit up with a message preview before I even touched it. Daniel, did he ask about the appointment? The preview disappeared almost immediately, but the sentence stayed in my head. Daniel was Megan's boss. I knew him, but not well. He had the careful charm of a man who never said anything without checking it first in his head. He was 47, married, and very good at sounding harmless. I had met him twice at work-related events Megan dragged me to. He shook my hand both times and called me buddy, which I hated for reasons I could not explain then. I stared at the tablet screen until it went dark. When Megan came into the kitchen, I asked, "Did Daniel go to one of your appointments?" She stopped by the fridge. "What?" I saw a message. Her eyes flicked to the tablet. "Why are you reading my messages?" It popped up on the kitchen tablet. "So now I can't even get work messages without you monitoring me?" "Megan, he checks on me because I've been overwhelmed. That's what supportive people do." There it was again. That clean little turn. My question became my failure. I let it go out loud, but not in my head. After that, I started paying attention. Not spying. Not hacking. Not following her. Just paying attention to things I had been allowed to see all along. Our shared calendar had events labeled vendor call, team dinner, and check-in. When I clicked one by accident while looking for a dentist appointment, the address field was blank, but the reminder note said, "Bring insurance card." A doctor's appointment does not accidentally get named team dinner 3 times. Then came the bank transfer. I was paying the mortgage and checking our joint account when I noticed a large transfer into Megan's separate account. It was not a small, "I bought something for myself" amount. It was the kind of amount you move when you are preparing for something. When I asked her about it, she folded laundry with sharp, angry movements. "So now I need permission to feel safe?" I didn't say that. I'm asking why money left our joint account without a conversation. "I'm pregnant, Austin. I need to know I'm not trapped." "Trapped by what?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "By you making everything about your feelings." I stood in the bedroom doorway and watched her match socks like she had not just punched a hole in the floor of our marriage. A few days later, she forwarded me an email about a family dinner she wanted to plan. It had a link to a restaurant, a note about a private room, and a line that said, "Just something small so everyone feels included." At the bottom of the thread, below 3 forwarded messages she clearly had not meant to include, was a hotel receipt. Daniel's name was on it. The date was from one of her team dinners. I stared at the attachment longer than I stared at the email. My hands were shaking, but I did not call her. I did not text Daniel. I did not throw anything. I saved the email in a folder with the date as the file name because some quiet part of me understood that anger would only help them call me unstable. The message to Trisha came 2 nights later. Trisha was Megan's closest friend. She had been around our marriage for years, the kind of friend who brought wine to dinner and then stayed too late talking in the kitchen. I never disliked her, but I always felt like she knew more than she said. The shared tablet was on the counter while I was cleaning up after dinner. Megan was upstairs. A notification appeared from Trisha. "Trisha, Megan, I told you this was going to blow up if you found out before the birth." A second later, another preview appeared. This one was Megan. "He won't walk away from a baby. Not Austin." I stood there with a wet sponge in my hand, staring at a sentence that cut through years of excuses. Not Austin. That was not love. That was strategy. When Megan came downstairs, I was sitting at the kitchen table. The tablet was dark. My phone was beside me. I had taken a photo of the notification while it was still visible, because I finally understood the difference between being calm and being passive. "We need to talk," I said. She rolled her eyes before she even sat down. "I'm exhausted. Is there a chance the baby isn't mine?" Her face went still. Not surprised. Not confused. Still. That was my answer before she opened her mouth. "Austin, I was scared." "Answer the question." She sat across from me and pressed her fingers to her forehead. "I don't know." The room seemed to shrink around us. The humming refrigerator sounded too loud. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. "You don't know?" I repeated. "It was complicated." "No. The calendar labels were complicated. The bank transfer was complicated. The hotel receipt was complicated. This is simple. Is Daniel the possible father?" She started crying, but the tears felt late, like she had brought them out because the first lines did not work. "I made a mistake." A mistake is missing a turn. This was a plan. You don't understand what it was like. I felt alone. He listened to me. He made me feel like I wasn't invisible. I leaned back in my chair. How long? She shook her head. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. It would only hurt you. That concern came late. She flinched. For 1 second, she looked ashamed. Then she reached for a different weapon. I'm pregnant. Stress is not good for the baby. I looked at her stomach, then back at her face. The baby is innocent. That doesn't make the adults innocent. She wiped her cheeks. Daniel can't be involved publicly. The sentence landed like a second confession. Why not? She looked down at the table. He has a family. So do I. That's not what I meant. No, it is. It's exactly what you meant. She pressed her palms flat on the table, suddenly more focused than broken. You're the stable one, Austin. He was the opportunity. I thought I was thinking about the baby. I stared at the woman I had loved and finally saw the whole shape of it. She was not asking me to forgive her. She was asking me to cooperate. So what was the plan? I asked. There wasn't a plan. Megan. She looked toward the stairs like she wanted to run. I thought if we waited until the baby was here, things would feel different. For me. For all of us. No. For me. You thought I'd bond with the baby, sign whatever needed signing, and then you and Daniel could keep your secret clean. She said nothing. I stood up slowly because if I stayed seated, I was afraid my calm would crack. You are not asking me to forgive you. You are asking me to help you hide him. She started crying harder. You would really punish a child because I made a mistake? No. I'm refusing to let you use a child to punish me. That night, I slept in the guest room. I did not really sleep. I lay on top of the blanket and listened to Megan walk around the house, opening cabinets, closing drawers, running water, stopping outside the door, but not knocking. The next morning, I called a family lawyer. I did not know what I was allowed to do. I did not know what paternity meant legally before or after birth. I did not know what I should sign, what I should avoid, or how to keep from accidentally trapping myself in a lie someone else built. The lawyer did not act shocked. That almost made it worse. She sat across from me with a legal pad and said, "Do not sign anything related to fatherhood without advice. Do not put promises in writing. Do not let anyone rush you into legal fatherhood because they created emotional urgency." Those words stayed with me. Emotional urgency. That was exactly what Megan was building. The lawyer told me to preserve what I already had legal access to. Shared bank statements. The forwarded email. Shared calendar screenshots. Messages visible on the shared tablet. Anything from joint accounts or communications sent to me. She told me not to threaten Daniel, not to contact his family, not to play detective, and not to make dramatic moves with money outside the legal process. So I got organized. I made a folder with dates and short labels. Calendar appointment. Hotel receipt. Bank transfer. Trisha notification. Nothing dramatic. No angry titles. No revenge names. Just a timeline. I stopped discussing anything important by phone. When Megan texted, I responded carefully. Please email me anything important. She called 17 times in one afternoon. I did not answer. Then came the dinner. Megan announced it in the family group chat like nothing was wrong. Just a small dinner this weekend. We have something sweet to share. Hope everyone can come. Heart emojis from her mother, Evelyn. A crying emoji from one of her aunts. My sister Lena texted me privately 5 minutes later. Is this what I think it is? I wrote back, it's complicated. She replied, that means yes and worse. Lena is 31 and has never been good at pretending she does not see things. She is blunt in a way that can set fire to dry grass, but she loves hard. I had not told her everything yet because I did not want to drag my family into a mess I was still trying to understand. Before the dinner, Evelyn texted me privately. Whatever is going on, this is not the time to make it about you. Pregnant women need support. I stared at the message in the parking lot of the restaurant. I almost typed a paragraph. Then I deleted it and wrote, I agree this should be handled honestly. She did not respond. The dinner room was small, warm, and clearly staged. Megan had told me it was casual, but there were pastel napkins, a framed ultrasound photo beside a small cake with tiny white booties piped on top, and little gold confetti scattered across the table. Just cute dinner stuff, she whispered when she saw me looking. But it was not just cute dinner stuff. It was evidence of an audience being prepared. Both families were there. My dad sat near the end of the table with his hands folded, watching me closely. Lena sat beside him, jaw tight. Evelyn floated around the room like a host at an event she had planned in her head for years. Trisha was there too, sitting near Megan and avoiding my eyes. Dinner started with forced cheer. People asked about symptoms, names, nursery colors. Megan smiled softly and put one hand on her stomach every time someone looked at her. I barely spoke. That made it easier for them. Halfway through dessert, Evelyn tapped her glass with a fork. I think Megan wanted to say something, she said. Megan stood. The room quieted. She looked beautiful in a soft blue dress, face carefully tired, eyes already wet. If I had not known the truth, I might have reached for her hand. This has been an emotional time, she said. I know marriage isn't always perfect. I know fear can make people distant. Her eyes moved to me. There it was. I felt alone, she continued. But I'm trying to focus on what matters now. This baby deserves love. This baby deserves peace. And I just hope Austin can finally stop being distant and become the father this baby deserves. The room froze in that polite way people freeze when they are uncomfortable, but waiting to see who they are allowed to blame. Evelyn nodded like a judge who had already heard enough. My aunt murmured, "Oh, honey." My dad looked down at the table. Lena stared at Megan with open disbelief. I felt every eye turn toward me. For a few seconds, the old Austin almost showed up. The one who would smooth it over. The one who would say, "We're working through it." The one who would absorb the humiliation because public peace felt safer than public truth. Then I saw the framed ultrasound photo beside the cake. I thought about the message. He won't walk away from a baby. Not Austin. I stood. Megan's smile twitched. "Austin," she said softly, a warning hidden inside tenderness. I reached under my chair and took out the envelope I had brought. Not a thick folder. Not a dramatic stack. Just enough. I placed it on the table in front of me. I was ready to be a father, I said. I was not ready to be assigned another man's consequences. Nobody moved. Evelyn's face hardened. This is not the time to make a pregnant woman cry. Then maybe she shouldn't have invited an audience before telling them the truth. Megan's hand flew to her stomach. "You're humiliating me." "No," I said. "You tried to use this room to humiliate me into silence." Trisha whispered, "Megan." Megan turned on her. "Don't." But Trisha's face had gone pale. Lena leaned forward. "What truth?" I opened the envelope and removed the timeline. I did not pass around every private detail. I did not read intimate messages out loud. I was not there to entertain anyone with my pain. I put down the calendar screenshots with the appointments labeled as work events. Then the hotel receipt that had Daniel's name on it. Then the bank transfer. Then the screenshot of the tablet notification. He won't walk away from a baby. Not Austin. The room changed as people read. Not loudly. Quietly. That was worse for Megan. Evelyn grabbed one of the papers, scanned it, and set it down like it had burned her. "Whatever happened," she said, voice shaking, "you handle it at home. A real husband protects his family in public." Lena snapped before I could answer. "He tried handling it at home. That is why she brought all of us here." "Stay out of this," Evelyn said. "No," Lena said. "You don't get to help set the stage and then complain when the lights turn on." Megan started crying for real then, or at least louder. "I was scared," she said. "I didn't know how to tell him." Trisha covered her mouth. "I thought you were going to tell him before the dinner." That sentence did more damage than anything I had printed. Everyone looked at Trisha. Megan stared at her friend like betrayal only counted when it happened to her. Evelyn's voice dropped. "Tell him what?" I answered because Megan would not. "That the baby may be Daniel's." Someone at the far end of the table whispered, "Daniel from work?" Megan looked down. That was enough. My dad finally spoke, low and steady. "Austin, do you want to leave?" The fact that he asked instead of ordering me to stay calm almost broke me. Before I could answer, Megan reached for my wrist. "Please," she said, "don't do this." I pulled my hand back gently. "You already did this." She shook her head. "Daniel is not who you think he is. I think he is a married man who wanted me to sign up for his consequences because it was cleaner for everyone." Trisha closed her eyes. Evelyn looked at her sharply. "What does that mean?" Trisha swallowed. "Megan, I told you this was going to blow up." Megan's voice cracked. "Stop helping him." "I'm not helping him," Trisha said. "I'm done helping you pretend this was just panic." The table went silent again. Megan tried one last turn. "You would punish a baby just to hurt me?" I looked at her stomach, then at the people who had been ready to shame me into smiling. "The baby did nothing wrong," I said. "That is exactly why I will not let adults use that baby to lie." I gathered the papers I needed to keep and left copies of the rest. Not everything. Not the worst parts. Enough. Then I stepped away from the table. Evelyn called after me. You'll regret walking out. I turned at the doorway. No. I regret staying quiet long enough for you to think this would work. I left before they could recast me as cruel. Outside, the air felt cold against my face. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to stand by my car for a minute before unlocking it. I was not proud in the way people imagine revenge feels. I was tired, sick, relieved, devastated. My dad and Lena came out a few minutes later. Lena hugged me without asking. She whispered, I took screenshots of the group chat. She deleted some messages after you walked out. I almost laughed because of course she did. My dad put a hand on my shoulder. You did not attack the child, he said. You told the truth about the adults. That was the only sentence that let me breathe. Megan called me before I made it home. Then again. I let every call go to voicemail. Her first message was angry. How could you do that to me in front of everyone? The second was crying. I'm pregnant, Austin. I needed you. The third was quieter. Please don't make me do this alone. I saved the messages and sent one email. I'm not discussing this by phone anymore. Any communication about the pregnancy, finances, separation, or legal matters needs to be in writing or through counsel. She replied 8 minutes later. You sound so cold. I did not answer. Over the next week, the story Megan had been building fell apart. Evelyn sent me one long text about forgiveness, marriage, and how men raise children every day that are not biologically theirs. I responded once. Those men choose that honestly. They are not tricked into it. She did not text me again. Trisha emailed me an apology. It was short. She said she had tried to convince Megan to tell me before the dinner. She admitted Megan had been counting on my attachment to the pregnancy once enough time passed. She did not ask me to forgive her. That made it easier to believe. Daniel reached out from a number I did not recognize. This has been misrepresented. You need to keep my name out of your marriage. I forwarded it to my lawyer. I never replied. Once the truth had documents attached, it stopped being gossip. Whatever happened in Daniel's world happened through proper channels. There were workplace policies, questions he could not dodge, and people who knew enough to stop pretending he was just an innocent name in a messy marriage. I did not contact his family. I did not post online. I did not need to. Careful men like Daniel depend on everyone else being too embarrassed to speak plainly. I was done being embarrassed for him. Megan moved between anger and desperation. Some days, she accused me of abandoning her during the most vulnerable time of her life. Other days, she said Daniel meant nothing, that he had pressured her, that she had been confused. Then she would say Daniel could give the baby opportunities one could not, and somehow, in the same breath, ask why I would not be the father. Every version had the same center. Me carrying the weight. At my lawyer's advice, I separated finances through the proper process. No revenge transfers. No emptied accounts. No dramatic locks changed in the middle of the night. Just paperwork, documentation, and boundaries. Megan hated that more than yelling. Yelling would have let her call me abusive. Silence with receipts gave her nowhere to stand. The last real conversation we had in person happened 2 weeks after the dinner. We met in the house with my dad waiting outside in his truck, not because I feared Megan physically, but because I did not trust the story she might tell if we were alone. The house felt different already. Half the pictures were still on the walls, but the rooms seemed staged, like a place we had rented for the life we failed to keep. Megan sat on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. You're the only person good enough to raise this child, she said. A few months earlier, that would have destroyed me. I would have heard love, faith, need. Now I heard the hook. You do not get to turn my character into a cage. She cried quietly. I know I hurt you. You planned around hurting me. I panicked. No, I said. Panic is one bad night. You moved money. You mislabeled appointments. You let your mother pressure me. You planned a dinner so both families would see me as the problem before they knew the truth. She looked at the floor. Daniel won't be there. That's between you, Daniel, and the legal process. So that's it. I looked around the living room. The throw pillow she bought after we argued about the color. The little scratch on the coffee table from when I dropped a mug, and she laughed so hard she cried. The shelf my dad and I fixed. The kitchen where I had tried to make soup while my life was being rearranged behind my back. I did not hate her in that moment. That almost made it sadder. Yes, I said. That's it, she whispered. I thought you were better than this. I opened the front door, then stopped. Being a good man does not mean volunteering to pay for someone else's betrayal. I moved out legally and cleanly. I kept communication in writing. I did not sign anything without advice. I did not let anyone tell me that refusing a lie was the same as rejecting a child. Some people still tried. A cousin of Megan's sent me a message saying, "Marriage is about forgiveness." I wrote back, "Forgiveness is not fraud prevention." Then I blocked him. Lena checked in more than I wanted and exactly as much as I needed. My dad came over one morning with coffee and a box of tools, even though there was nothing to fix. He sat at my small kitchen table and said, "Quiet feels strange after chaos." He was right. For a while, quiet felt like punishment. No footsteps upstairs. No phone lighting up on the counter. No one sighing when I asked a simple question. No performance to manage. No maze. Then, slowly, quiet became proof that I was safe. The divorce process moved forward. Paternity would be handled through the right legal channels when the time came. Megan's family stopped sending speeches about honor once they realized written messages could also become records. Daniel's polished denial did not survive contact with the timeline. Tricia stepped back from Megan, or maybe Megan pushed her away. I only heard pieces, and I stopped chasing the rest. I never celebrated Megan's fear. I never wished harm on the baby. That part mattered to me. But I also stopped letting people use the baby as a shield for adult choices. The last email Megan sent me before everything went through said, "I hope someday you understand why I did what I did." I sat with that for a long time. Then I replied with one sentence. "I understand enough to leave." And I did. Not with a new girlfriend, not with some dramatic speech, not with a perfect clean ending where every wound closed on schedule. I left with a lawyer's folder, a quieter apartment, a sister who still sent me rude memes at midnight, and a father who pretended he needed my help fixing things just so he could check on me. I left knowing that kindness without boundaries is just a place people learn to store their consequences. And for the first time in years, I stopped apologizing for not carrying what was never mine. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.